All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending the fourth session of our Adult 101 Life Skills Workshop series. Today, we are reviewing effective communication in a digital world with Niall from Hacker Lab and data privacy with data detox for youth presented by Chloe from the Sacramento Public Library. So I wanted to go over just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you missed any of our previous sessions, the recordings are available online at www.saclibrary.org/adult101. And I am going to put that in the chat. You can see that there. We are recording this session. So if you want to review anything that we go over today, it should be up on our website by the end of this week. If you are interested in signing up for future sessions, you can register on the same site that I just put in the chat. And if you haven't done so already, if you can go ahead and put your first name and last initial in the chat, if it is not already in your Zoom name. That way I can connect you to the email you used to register today and send you your digital certificate of completion. I also wanted to note that we are able to offer this program today due to funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services and the California State Library. Before we end today, I will put a survey link in the chat. We really appreciate you completing this survey as it will communicate to the State Library how you like this program and help us do even better in the future. Okay, so now I am going to turn it over to Niall from Hacker Lab. After Niall completes his presentation, we will take a 5-minute break and then we'll move on to Chloe's presentation. We will be taking any questions you have in the chat, or you can use the raised hand feature or just speak up if you'd like to do that as well. Okay, Niall, you're on.
The moment I switch to share screen, all of my buttons disappear. It's a great start to it. Hello, everybody. So my name's Niall, just like the river in Egypt. Don't worry if you don't remember, I get Niles, Neil, everything under the sun. So I'm the CTO over at Hacker Lab. Hacker Lab, for those who are not aware, is a makerspace down in Sacramento. So the idea is it's like a gym for shop equipment. And so you can show up, become a member, learn how to do laser cutting, 3D printing, programming, electronics, a lot of stuff. That said, what I'm here to talk to you about today is online communication. And online communication is something we all do right now. I mean, we're doing it right now. We're talking to each other via Zoom. This is one of the examples that we will be covering. But it can be, just like everything else, it has its place and it has its drawbacks. And so I want to cover some of the basic types of online communication and some best practices for communicating digitally, especially when it comes to a professional setting. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Side note, if you've got questions or discussion topics, the chat is fine. I'm actually okay with you speaking out as long as you kind of wait for a natural pause. Like, that's totally cool with me. I think for a session like this, it's like we're not sitting together face to face. So right now, like, I'm staring at a screen full of people's first names and it's kind of hard to get any feedback real time as to what's going on there. So we can use chat. If you feel more comfortable speaking out, that's cool. I left my background horrifically messy on purpose. I didn't use a virtual screen because, like, I want to let you know that it's okay, right? We all have different situations in our personal life and it's totally okay to not want to show those backgrounds. But for me, nobody has ever complained about this and I've been on meeting calls. So yeah, we'll go with that. And if you have any questions about something you spy, feel free to ask in the chat too. There's some interesting things back there. So a little bit about myself, we'll keep this brief. I have BS in computer science and engineering, CTO and education coordinator at Hacker Lab, co-working in Makerspace. I teach primarily programming, electronics, 3D printing, and a lot of technical topics, not so much, it's kind of life skills topics. However, I've done design thinking and other similar disciplines from time to time. I'm also a freelance technical consultant for art installations, product ideas, that kind of stuff. The idea is somebody wants to do something, build some cool thing and have some automated or interactive electronic component to it. They come to ask me, because I'm a nerd, flat out way of saying it, how to make that happen. I love to take things apart, love to build things, learn, be a nerd, etc. And I'm not a communications professional, right? I don't have a background in communications. What I do have a background in is IT. So IT being the IT person who responds to problems that other people have, often over communication mediums. So this talk is partially a rant from me and partially some tips and tricks that I've learned to help you get along and effectively communicate in a world where we're not always all seeing each other face to face. So with that said, we'll get going. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to just jump in. So what do I say when I mean digital communication? Digital communication, if you were to search it, you'd probably find something more in the realm of computer science or computer software programming, having to do with protocols of data talking back to each other. I'm using it here to just really refer to forms of communication other than face-to-face. So things that rely on computers and smartphones. That could be email is usually the first thing that jumps to people's minds. SMS, i.e. instant messaging, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Discord, professional chat and social, so like LinkedIn, Slack, Google Chat, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, video chats like we're using now, and then phones. I included phone here, even though it seems a little old school, because we really use phones in a different way than we did 20, 30 years ago, right? I don't know how many, actually, by raise of hand, just out of curiosity, how many people either growing up now or sometime in their recent past had a landline, i.e. a home phone that was wired to the wall or is wired to the wall? Okay, that is many more than I thought there were going to be, but still, that, when you have a home phone, it's not with you all the time, right? It's at home, it's there, people call it, they leave messages, and then you can go check those messages when you happen to be there, right? That's very different than the smartphone, cell phone age, right? Where you have a phone that is with you almost 24/7 and you can use it to reply to things 24/7. That's a very different, use case for humans. So I consider it more of one of the more nouveau digital communication platforms. So real world observations. This is my background as IT and kind of cat wrangling, as I put the image here showing. I deal with a lot of tech support and IT communications. That is, people think of me as the computer person, right? There is a problem that they have with their computer or with something computer machine related that they don't know how to solve, and so they contact me. Each one of those people will contact me in a different way, shape, or form, using a different medium, using a method that works for them. And I get to deal with that. So that, I feel, has given me a particular insight into, I'm not the only one out there, but like, it gives me a very particular insight into how people will approach trying to get help to solve a problem that they have, just in their own, according to their own nature or their own communication preferences. Another aspect of my job is I manage education initiatives at Hacker Lab. So we host classes in anything from woodworking to programming to jewelry making to laser cutting to 3D design, 2D design, lots of unrelated stuff, how to be an entrepreneur, right? All sorts of things. Every one of these classes has different requirements, and they have a different kind of instructor who teaches them. Some of our instructors, who, especially in the like woodworking department, they've been a professional woodworker for 40 years and they are really good at that. They're exceptionally good at that. You look at the things that they build with their hands and some machines and you go, wow, I didn't know people just did that by hand, right? I thought this was all mechanized. This is all machines. Yet, if I try to coordinate with them over email for a very, straightforward thing. Hey, what time are your classes going to be next month? What times do you have available? I'll get 1-word answers, 2-word answers. Maybe I'll get an answer next week. I'll call them because they like phone calls and they won't answer. And I'll leave a message and then I won't get anything back. I'll text them, same thing. It's kind of a, it's a toss-up. Usually I have to find them in person, track them down and say, hey, look at my email, right? That's not everyone. Some of them are really good at that. I send them an email, they'll get back to me right away. And not everyone has to get back to me right away, but we need to be cognizant of those communication methods, right? What we're checking, what we're replying to, who we're replying to, how quickly we're replying, etc. Also, this is not just the youth, and it's not just the old people either. It is really everyone. We all struggle with this. I struggle with this. There's still a lot of things here that I am trying to constantly improve. A big one that jumps out to me that I'll just leave as a little anecdote is called I call it last question syndrome. So I'm sure that many of you have experienced this because it happens in text messaging as well as in email. You send a person a list of questions or a list of topics, like 3 or 4, maybe tops, in one message, and they will reply only to the last thing you asked. Does that ring true with anybody? Just give me a hand so I know you're out there, so I know I'm not alone on this. Thank you. Yeah, it's that kind of stuff it's not that it's so hard to do in the sense of it's so hard to remember to not fall into those traps. It's just so easy to fall into those traps. I'll do them too. It's easy to avoid, and it's also easy to walk right into. And so a little bit of thought can go a long way there. Another common communication pitfall is technical translation. So when you're speaking with different people, they all have different technical backgrounds as far as what words they know they're familiar with. It's referred to as jargon in many different industries. So what terms am I using? If I start talking about microcontrollers and TCP/IP communication and interchip communication protocols, most people go, what is that? I don't know, right? It's a term that is very clear to me, and to me is the technically correct term to refer to something, but may not be for the person I'm speaking with. So sometimes it's about taking a moment to understand your audience, figuring out what language they speak, what version of the English language they speak, what words they know, what context they have, and how can you better communicate your ideas to them. Because that's, I mean, ultimately what communication is about. I have some thought that's in my head, some information, and I want to transfer that to you, right? You, everyone here. Like, I want you to know what's in my head. How can I do that as effectively as possible? And sometimes I have to change the way I would think about something in order to do that better. Nextly, which is a word I'm sure, we have asynchronous versus synchronous communications. So those are 2 big words that if I were to boil them, we'll get into a little bit more, but the gist of it is, do you talk to somebody right now? Are we having a live conversation, or is this something where I send you information and you'll get back to me at some point? Both of those are well suited for different situations. And it's really important to take a moment and understand which one of those situations is best suited for the information that you have right now, or the question that you have right now, or the problem that you have right now. Nextly, impressions, urgency, clarity, and conciseness. So just like when you meet somebody face to face, when you're speaking to them digitally by sending an email, starting a chat message, whatever, you have one chance for a first impression, right? You're going to say something, and they're going to make unconscious judgments about you based on what it is that you said and how you said it. We can all, as listeners and recipients, work better to try to be aware of our subconscious judgments that we make, but it's also important to realize that people are going to make them, and for certain things you should make an effort. Being professional is one of those, right? You wouldn't open an email with that to a potential job or a potential employer with, hey, hey, what up? Right? You wouldn't say that. And in some situations, in a casual setting when you're meeting an employer, that might work. I'm not saying it would or you should use it, but there's a chance for it. There's different context associated with things you say online. And also, last kind of tidbit before we continue is that I'm really focusing on a professional or a work setting. There's a lot of things here that also apply to interpersonal communication in your private life, right? When you're talking to your friends, family, people who you have you have more context for your communication, right? People that you know. But we're kind of focusing on more the professional setting here. Is that cool? All right. So question for everyone around here. And I would love just off the cuff responses, like think about it. What is the feeling you get, the very first feeling when your phone rings before you look at who's calling? You can type them out in chat. Ugh, shut off, please. I love that. Startled, that's a good one. What else? I really want to hear this because I want to know if this is kind of me testing to see if everyone is on the same levels. Anxious. Anxious is the first one that comes to mind for me. Nervous. Yep, absolutely. No thanks. Great, another spam call. What do they want? What do they want is a great one. Fight or flight, shock. I love it. Ugh, text much, exactly. And that's one thing we kind of want to explore. Anxiety, do I have to answer this exactly? Ugh, we kind of would rather people just text us, right? Like that seems like we want that to happen, right? It's like, why can't you just text me? Okay, let's think about why that is. Of course, depends on who calling. Yeah, and that's why I put here before you look at who's calling, right? It's just that initial reaction. Now, you have now all seen in the chat that everyone else here feels essentially a variety of the same thing, right? We're all pretty much on the same page in this. So now you know that when you call somebody else, before they look at that name to see who's calling, you've got a chance of making them a little bit more anxious, right? That is the stage you're setting for the communication. And everyone's going to kind of run into that a little bit. So we want to keep in mind that what we feel is mirrored in a lot of cases by what everyone else feels too, right? We're not, the anxiety thing, I feel like a lot of people feel it's just them, but it's not. It's a lot of us. And a lot of them are spam calls. Side note, fun thing, for me now, if a spam call shows up, I'll answer it. And if it's obviously a spam call, I'll just put it on speakerphone and throw it in the corner if I can, and just let it fade to black. I figure let's like waste their time if I can. But yeah, that's me. But yeah, so why do we feel that anxiety, right? One factor could be, I haven't done the research per se on this, but for me, when I've examined myself, there's an unknown component, right? When somebody's calling me, I don't know who it is. I don't know what they want, right? I don't know if they're going to make a huge demand of my time or if they're going to briefly, succinctly tell me that I've won the lottery, right? That'd be fantastic. They call me and say, hey, you won the lottery, and it's not a spam call. I, for no reason, feel like if I answer the number I don't know, I'll get immediately hacked. You have that feeling like something bad could happen. I don't know what this is, and something terrible could happen. I believe same for you. Yeah, the unknown, absolutely. I think in the next speaker, Chloe, is going to go into a lot of online stuff a little bit more, and beware of phishing. That's all I'll say. But yeah, it's the unknown is terrifying, and that is why we love SMS, in my opinion. It's that if somebody sends me a text message, I don't have to face them right away. I don't have to be put face to face or voice to voice with them immediately. I can take a moment, compose my thoughts, read through it, figure out what a good answer is, and reply on my own time. I don't have to tell them what I'm doing immediately. I don't have to tell them where I am immediately. I don't have to tell them what my mother's maiden name is. I can think about this response, formulate it, and reply to it. And yeah, it's the unknown. Like I said, it's a little uncomfortable. You don't know what's going to happen. But, at the same time, when it's somebody right? Like, say you're really close with one of your parents or your best friend or whatever, or your significant other, whatever. You answer that phone and you look at the phone and you see who it is. And that anxiety can switch to joy really quickly, depending on what that caller ID says. So, it's a little either way. But I mean, I've had some great bosses in my days, but even then, if I look at my phone and the boss is calling, I'm usually not like, oh, joy. That's yeah. Maybe somebody else is different, but like, there's always a little bit of work in there. So, who is calling? What do they want? Do I know this person? Can I talk right now? Is it convenient for me to talk right now? Is this a problem I can solve right away? Right? These are all of the thoughts that we've covered. So phone calls, what are the advantages? Like, what is the reason we have them? They're great for a first point of contact, setting the context. If you don't know somebody, right, this is a person you've never really interacted with, it provides a little bit of room for some back and forth, for getting to know you, that an email or a text message sometimes would not. I've gotten spam text messages too, and some of them are, hey, remember me? And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. I don't know what number this is, right? There's a little bit more to a phone call, right? You have more opportunities for making a better first impression, for setting the context, right? Somebody who you've spoken to frequently, right? Friends, family, coworker who you know already. When you answer a call from them, whether you think about it or not, you have a giant pile of context, which is the entire relationship you've had with that person. And if you're answering a text message, a lot of that is missing, from somebody new. So a phone call is honestly a great way to do that. Important points: scheduling and preparation can reduce stress. If you've got a call scheduled for, an employer, right, you're doing a job interview, it's a little bit easier if you know exactly what time you're going to have the call. I've been in situations where I've been inquiring about something, right? Think about it as a job or a freelance gig or something, and I'll call this person I've never spoken to for, and I slip into my customer service voice, which I have, and I can't do on command unless I'm in a customer service mode. But it's really, people, yeah, they look at me like, was that you? That was not you. Anyway, slip into that voice, introduce myself to somebody, and then I'm just waiting for a call back. And I don't know when that call is going to come. It could come in the middle of the day when I'm at another job. It could come late in the evening because that's when that person wants to communicate. I don't know. So scheduling helps with that anxiety, at least a little bit. If you can define a time that says, hey, I'm available between these hours, or let's meet up and talk at this time, or let's have a phone call and talk at this time, that can go a long way. And that is acceptable in a professional setting, right? To say, here's my availability. A general kind of rule that I tell people who I communicate with, or that I try to keep for myself, is when I see a call from somebody I know, right? When I get a caller ID from somebody that I know in a professional setting, I internally should have at least a good idea of what they're calling about. If I don't, then there's some room to work on this communication, because otherwise I'm getting surprised, and I don't like surprises. I don't like those kind of surprises that are problems. Those are not fun. Agendas are great. Taking a little bit of time to map out what it is that you want to talk about can do wonders for keeping you on topic. This presentation that I'm doing right now, I put the actual, slide deck together very last minute, but I had this giant text document that had all of the points that I want to cover, for months, that I said, hey, I want to make sure I get this, right? For me, the giant text pile is more than good enough. This is just a skeleton to try to keep me on the rails as I speak. And so, it makes life easier. I can sit down here and have and talk authoritatively about this topic to people who, mostly broadly, I've not met any of you in person before. I mean, I might have, but I don't think I have. And yet here I am, right? So now a little bit of synchronous versus asynchronous. So I thought I had I didn't. Okay. Forgot something that I put here. So synchronous versus asynchronous. Synchronous is a video call. Synchronous is a phone call. I am speaking with you the other person, and we are having an active back and forth. We both have 100% or near 100% of the other person's attention span, right? I'm speaking with you, you're speaking with me, we can go back and forth. It's great. Asynchronous is kind of the opposite. I don't know what your schedule is. I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're doing. I'm going to package up a bunch of information and send it to you. You can kind of think of it like old school snail mail. I have to compose all of my thoughts into a concise document and then send it to you in one way, shape, or form. So this is some of the strengths of Synchronous. It's fast, immediate, great for brainstorming. When you don't know where this conversation is going, having a synchronous meeting, right, where you're actually talking to somebody real time, even if it's in text, can do wonders. It allows you to meander and flow and get to wherever you want to go. It facilitates more open discussions. It's easier to reply just from the first thing that showed up into your head, or hopefully you filter that a little bit, right? But it allows you to reply quickly. It's easy to communicate tone, right? Tone is something that's often lost in text-based communication. We can add emojis and other signaling things like that that says that, hey, I'm being sarcastic right now, or hey, I'm asking this in a question, or asking this as a question, right? That kind of stuff. That's much easier to communicate vocally, or even real time is better than nothing. It's easy to clarify or provide additional context on the fly, right? Something that I've missed dearly since the move to online, especially with, and it's okay. I'm not calling everyone out on not putting on their video. It's totally fine. But something that I've missed is being able to look at the facial expressions of the people that I'm speaking with and use those to kind of gauge whether I'm on the right track, whether I'm losing some people, whether they're slipping behind, whether I'm moving too fast, whether I'm speaking too fast, whether they're bored. That's another big one, right? Like if I get facial expressions that somebody is bored, I need to say something to pull their attention back. Otherwise I'm lost. And online without face-to-face communication, it's kind of difficult. In this situation where it's a speaker and a bunch of presenters, I can deal with this, but if you are ever having a Zoom meeting with a potential employer or something in a professional setting, right, very much in the professional wheelhouse, I implore you to take the time to make sure you can get on video. The communication itself will be better. I guarantee it. You will have a better time, an easier time communicating all of the nuance of what it is that you want to say. It's great for quick and short information. So this is a little bit more towards like the chat and the SMS side, but I have a really quick question and I know you know the answer to it, and I'm just throwing this at you and let me know, right? And it's great for very high level information, right? We have to have a high level discussion to set the tone, set the terms, and then we'll dive into the details later as they arise. Those are strengths of Synchronous as I see them. Asynchronous strengths, slow and methodical. I mean, slow sometimes sounds bad, but to me, it gives you time to construct your thoughts. Reporting, clear delegation. If a lot of these things in the asynchronous strengths rely on the people involved in the communication being aware that these can be strengths. So clear delegation. If there is an action I need to take in response to the information you've given me, I want to be very clear about what that action is, right? Otherwise, I'm not sure whether they're going to reply. Note-taking exists by default. That's one that I just love, right? The more I keep my communication in email and in other written forms, the more more often if I forgot what I said to somebody, I can just go look it up, right? I have notes. They're built in, they're there, they're searchable. Life is great. It's very friendly towards technical issues. That's the IT nerd in me saying stuff again. If you've got a problem with the computer and I can ask you for very detailed follow-up information, you can send me error messages, error codes, and my life is amazing. Have you seen URLs? Like the URL to this meeting, I'm sure was just some random string of letters. Yeah, have you ever tried to speak that to somebody over the phone? It's not going to happen, right? You can send them a link. Life is good. And it's great for in the weeds, very low level information, right? You're in the details for something. You need to send a lot of information dense stuff. It's great for that. Weaknesses, phone tag in the synchronous camp, phone tag and scheduling. I call you, you didn't answer, I leave a voicemail. You call me later. You didn't catch me. You left a voicemail. I call you back later. And this can go on for days, and it's really annoying. Um, I think somebody said it in the chat earlier. Text much? Yeah. Why didn't you just leave a message? Write a text, something, right? Preparation can be required. I know for me, if I have a call and I've gone through the motions of scheduling it, I want to have at least like a little notepad or something. Sometimes I use a physical notebook that I keep with me. Sometimes I use a text file on my computer, whatever it is, just something so that I can help keep myself on track, right, during this communication. Something that allows me to get as much out of it as I can. Without that, it's really easy to go off the rails talking about updates on people's lives, especially if it's a coworker, something that you're friendly with, and you're like, hey, how's the family? How's your dog? How's whatever? You can just go off on tangents on this stuff. And that's not bad. It's just sometimes you want to cut to the point. So be aware of which, situation you're in. On the spot problem solving can be expected. This is one that I've, as the designated tech human being who knows the tech stuff, I find myself put in this spot, especially on group calls frequently, where you're talking with a client, right? You have the organization, the company, and then a client who you're speaking with, and you're discussing the feasibility of something, right? The requirements. The client says, oh, I want X. And my boss or somebody else will look to me and say, hey, we can do X, right? And I'll say, well, X is kind of complicated. There are a lot of details involved as to whether or not we can actually do X. And I'll go into the weeds and I'll just spout off a whole bunch of technical jargon that makes no sense to anybody. And they'll say, well, I need a yes or no answer. Can I do that or not? Right. I've kind of walked myself into a trap of, I just said a bunch of words. I am now seen as the expert. I should be able to know whether I can do this or not. I have to be cognizant of that and spend some time and say, hey, look, I don't know right now. I'll get back to you, right? Asynchronous weaknesses, that's a little bit harder to run into in asynchronous communication, because typically you have the time to go into the details and formulate a reply. It's a lot easier than dealing with that on the spot. Asynchronous weaknesses requires more deliberate thought. All information must be explicitly stated with context included. Like I said previously, it's hard to communicate sarcasm. You don't want to muddy up a formal email with questions about it, whether a person enjoyed their trip to Cancun or not. That's all cool information, but like it has no business in a formal email. It's slow. If I'm sending an email, it's usually, you can get back to, if it's somebody I work with and we're Monday through Friday folks, I'm expecting an email or at least some kind of communication, maybe tomorrow or the next day, maybe today if they're cool. But I have to understand as the sender that I might not get a reply instantly from this. It can get messy very easily. People love reply. They also love reply all. And if you've ever seen an email chain that has had 10 different people all replying their personal communications back to the originating person, I'm like, well, I didn't need to know that Sam over there couldn't make the meeting. I didn't need to know that. That was between those two, the organizer and them. I didn't need to know that. And there's ways to get around these, as we'll go into. Asynchronous weaknesses, one of the big ones is it tends to rely on the participant's ability to evaluate and effectively structure their thoughts. So email only works when when those who are sending it take the time to formulate their thoughts into a very concise, clear, oftentimes bullet pointed or step-by-step format. If you can do that, you're winning. Everyone else who talks to you digitally will love you, and your IT people will be very happy. So know your audience. That's kind of, this is more the personal aspect of it. While it's really easy to say, hey, these are the strengths of this form and these are the strengths of weaknesses, everyone has their own preference. And Byagan, I hope I said that right. Excellent point. I do like voice message text for being both and neither of these options, right? And remember that voice message texts are asynchronous. right? It's you are sending a message that you're expecting the other person to get back to you with on their own time. It is asynchronous. It's not written, so it doesn't get to be searchable like some of the other fantastic asynchronous options, but it is still asynchronous, right? It's you saying, hey, here's a message, reply to me on your own time. But at the same time, different people have different preferences, different people have different strengths. As I spoke before in my herding cats metaphor, there's some folks that I work with who are amazing at the thing that they do, right? Woodworking or whatever, that are terrible at digital communication. They're just horrible at it. And I have to really try hard to track them down. I've kind of built up a mental list of who likes what, right? And for me, I would just email everybody. It's easier for me. I can get to everyone quickly. But I understand that not everyone is that way. And if my goal is to actually accomplish this task, right, figure out when they're available to teach or when they're available for a meeting, I might have to use any communication method in my arsenal, including figuring out when they're going to be at a specific place, then going and finding them, right? That not like, hiring a PI or anything. I mean, but like know when they're going to be going into work and making sure I'm there at the same time. Different people have different preferences, different situations have different requirements, and frequently those two above points are in conflict. I might be in a situation where I know that I need some detailed document that's written from a person that I don't want them to leave me a message and then me have to like dictate and type out. But I know that if I have to rely on them to send me an email, I'm going to be waiting forever. That's a situation where the best form of communication is not necessarily the best for this person. And I have to decide, like, which method do I pursue to try to figure this out? You may not know which method works best, where and with who, until you've guessed incorrectly. So when somebody's not getting back to you via email, or not responding to your texts, and this is once again in the professional setting, you have the option. You can either get mad at them for not conforming to your communication preferences, or you can try to figure out what preference works for them, and then hopefully maybe have a conversation with them and set expectations between the two of you. So good impressions, bad impressions. I left insert anime profile pic here because I was looking at anime profile pics as standard bad profile images, but I couldn't find any that I was 100% sure were like appropriate, because I don't know anime well enough and I don't want to be like, oh, that's from this weird thing, and be like, oh, shouldn't have done that. So imagine terrible anime profile pic there. So and that's nothing against anime profile pics. Just realize that when you're in a professional setting, you might not want that to be it. So here's, email addresses, nmito@example.com. That's my first initial and my last name. You're all allowed to know what my last name is in a professional setting. I'm okay with that. Coincidentally, if you ever meet anybody with the last name Mito on this continent, they are almost 100% related to me. So cool thing there. So nmito, first initial last name at whateverdomain.com. Some people rag on a custom or on free domains like Hotmail or Gmail or whatever. It's totally fine. The world uses free email. That's cool. If you're going to be if you're trying to go the freelance entrepreneur route, right, and you're selling you're at working as a consultant, or you're selling some craft things that you're making, that's when going the extra route to get your own domain name is a great idea. And I'll throw my email at the end of this chat if anybody wants to know how to do that. We've got some classes that are free that I can point you towards for how to do that. But awesome dude at example.com. That's great for my online video game chat. That's terrible for applying for a job. And when I say awesome dude at example.com, I'm sure you can imagine the worst things that can show up there. Chat usernames, same thing. At our space, we use both Slack and Discord for our user base, right? We're a community organization in that I have the people that I work with as part of the company, and then there's a lot of members who I also talk with. And they're not strictly coworkers, they're closer to customers, but I'm also friends with them. And so it's kind of this weird middle ground. And so we have a Hacker Lab Discord and we have a Hacker Lab Slack. Sometimes when somebody messages me on Hacker Lab Discord or Slack, I tell them, no, for this, you need to follow up an email. That's a situation when it comes through because they're used to using Discord with their, I'll call it a gamer tag, XX Extreme Gamer 55XD, whatever. And my first question is, who are you? I don't know who you are. We have a relationship that exists in the real world because you're purchasing a service from the company that I work for, and we are going to meet up in person at some point. If I don't know what your name is, I can't help you. And people are just not used to that on Discord, right? You're in a situation where you're not familiar with that. Something that's slightly better, Nile1972, random numbers behind people's names. It's pretty straightforward. I'm Nile. If this said John or Mike or Sally or whatever, you'd be fine with that. You'd know, it's enough for you to know who they are, and it's not obscene or silly. That said, some of you might have noticed that I have a really silly profile picture on Zoom. So am I, what happened to the, I don't even know where that is. All right, it hid my keyboard commands. Anyway, at some point when I switch my video off, you will see a silhouette of my face that I use as a profile picture. And so, there's some middle ground. I think I'm in the kind of business where it's okay to do something like that. But that was reading the room. So yeah. And some people might disagree with me. So I'm aware of it. Profile pictures, yes. Think of them. I'm not trying to call out anybody in the chat right now. But yeah, think about, if you set a profile picture or something, anywhere you use that account, that's going to show up. Be aware of that. Who are you contacting? Here's another one. When you're reaching out to a company, especially somebody or another, anybody in a formal setting, especially somebody who you've not talked to before, think about if that person or that entity has set up a formal channel for communications. Do they have a catch-all email like contact@example.com? Do they have jobs@example.com? That's their sign to you that says, hey, if you've got a question about general, what's going on in your company, or you want a job, we set this email for you. Contact this email right here. This is where you should send that. Is there a formal submission avenue, an online form? That's usually a sign that they want you to go there. Are there times when it's better for you to, try to get to know somebody or send a direct email to the CEO of the company? That's your gamble, right? Sometimes that works, sometimes that might not. I can't tell you to do that or not, but I can tell you that if they've set up an online submission, an online form, or they explicitly have an email like jobs@example.com that they publish on their website, that's them telling you that that's where they want you to send those inquiries to. So email, we're going to drill down a little bit onto just email. Advantages. It's asynchronous, searchable, great for information dense communications that need to be referenced later. Fantastic for that. Disadvantages, no free flow of discussion. It's really not good for that. Like just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other does not work. Maybe there's people out there who can do it, but I'm not one of them. Grammar is important. We want to speak in shorthand. We want to do all of these things to save typing. This is something that has a little bit more formality to it. Spend the time, you're not in a hurry. Spend the time to write good. Needs maintenance and monitoring. I just pulled up one of my random email addresses that I barely use anymore and saw this inbox 1,295. And I'm sure a lot of people have an email like that is even more than that. This one I've actually done a little bit of pruning on. If you don't stay on top of your email, it will get out of control to the point where it's almost unusable. That's what I meant by maintenance. Email in your inbox requires maintenance. You've got to stay on top of it. Yeah. An email needs to be explicit, right? You need to make your asks very clear. This is the information I have. This is what I need. This is what I want. This is what I want from you as another human. Please either provide me that or tell me why that can't happen or why I'm wrong or whatever. But be very explicit. It's hard to add extra context. You can't shrug your shoulders while you're saying something. I mean, you can throw in an emoji, but that doesn't always look super professional. And email may not be the answer. Here's a terrible example. I've got an email that I've compiled here that I'm sending to other person, an example, or example, I guess I mistyped that, like 2 other people. Marketing strategy. Hi all, we need to do more sales this month. This is a priority. See below. Thanks. Forward, re-forward. Hi John, I was going over the sales and they seem low. ... Forward. And there's probably like 8 or 9 other emails in the chain underneath here. So that all may be important information that's down there, but between people's signatures and all sorts of stuff, I have to go dig through all that stuff to figure out the information. The ask, what's up here, needs to be more concise, right? There's clearly a larger discussion that has already occurred down below. A lot of people have been weighing in on this. The ask is super vague. I'm not sure what specific action I need to take in response to this. And many parties are being solicited for this kind of random feedback. So I don't know if somebody else has a better idea and they're going to reply first and it's going to be just as vague. I don't know. This is the kind of thing that you might want to set a meeting for, or find another way to meet with people and have an in-person discussion or a virtual discussion, either way. Technical support examples. This one's a little bit more true to my heart, my soul. It ventures a little bit into how to debug a situation that you find yourself in. I would love to spend my life's work figuring out how to teach people how to debug. I have no idea. But we'll see if everyone can see the differences right here. So bad. I'm sending Niall an email. It says help in the subject line. It says the computer isn't working. That's all. Usually for me, that's followed up with a chat message or some phone, because I know that I'm not going to be able to get details out of this person via email. So I just give up and I try to get to them as soon as is convenient for me, because they didn't take the time to think through their problem and effectively communicate it for me. Their emergency isn't necessarily my emergency. Might be, but I don't know. Here's a little bit better. Cannot connect to the internet. Hi, Niall. I can't connect to the internet on my laptop. I'm in the office right now and I really need to get online ASAP. Are you available to take a look? That's a little bit better. There's a little bit more information as to what the problem is. I might be able to check some things real quick to see if there's a fast solution and then get back to them. There's also the request that this is something urgent that, you know, they need help with. This is a little bit better. This would be fine for most people. And here's like awesome, implying somebody doesn't know how to solve their problem. Cannot connect to the internet. Hi, Niall. I can't connect to the internet on my laptop. I'm in the office right now and I really need to get online ASAP. I noticed that I can visit google.com but cannot view hackerlab.org. No one else around me has complained of the same issue. Are you available to take a look? It's an urgent issue. This is amazing. When I get an email like this, I'm just happy for the person. I'm happy to help them for a few reasons. One, they've explicitly told me what their problem is. And I might be like, it might seem like these are very contrived, but help the computer isn't working is a real email that I've received from somebody who couldn't get to our website. The computer was working just fine, right? I mean, they were on the computer. They sent me this email from that computer. They didn't tell me any details, right? The computer's not working. Okay, you're sending to me this from your phone. I don't know. The problem is I need to know a lot more information to figure out what's going on. Middle one, I can't connect to the internet on my laptop. Cool. A lot of people don't necessarily think to communicate the difference between my computer in its entirety is broken, nothing is happening with it, and I cannot get online, right? That's a specific problem versus a vague, something's broken, I don't know what it is. And I'd argue that you don't need much technical know-how to know the difference between my computer itself is a flaming pile of plastic and metal at this moment versus I can't get online. I can't connect to the internet, right? I hazard that most people internally know that difference. Yet the amount of times I get something in like the bad category often it's bad. On the far right, this is amazing. Like better is pretty good, but best is amazing because not only did they notice that the internet is the thing that's not working, they tried to see if they took a step of debug. They tried to figure out whether A, it's everyone around me, and B, it's just this website or the entirety of the internet, right? Those two pieces of information tell me two very critical things as an IT person. One, if everyone around them is online and not complaining about this, then the network is probably fine. The connection to the internet from that office is probably fine. It's probably something on just their computer. That's a big step. That narrows it down so much for me. The second thing is they've noticed they can visit one website, but not another. That tells me, I wonder if it's a problem with just that website versus it's the person's computer just explicitly refusing to touch this one website. That helps me a lot. This is the difference between like an hour problem becoming like a 5-minute problem. And that kind of level of debug shows me that they took the time to compose their thoughts, write a good email with a lot of detail, and provide it to me. Is email the right method? That's a question you want to ask yourselves too. Remember that the response you get will likely not be immediate. You're essentially giving the person a little bit of time to figure this out. And so in that last situation, that might have not been the correct, the best option, depending on how fast they needed it. There's a large amount of context from previous verbal discussions that might need to be summarized, like the previous email before that. There might be this giant discussion that happened that you now need to make sure gets encapsulated in this email. And there are many people who need to provide feedback. That's another warning sign that email might not be the right thing for you. A bunch of people all trying to speak on the same email chain can get messy. Additional kind of considerations and tips and tricks. Know whether this is a cold email or whether you know the person or not. Cold email is, I don't know this person, I'm sending him a message for the first time. I phrase it as getting permission to email them, but we all get a lot of spam in our inbox, and it's sometimes hard to distinguish between legitimate spam and just somebody I haven't met before reaching out to me via email. So if you can try to find another way to get heads up from a person or give them the heads up that you're going to email them, that can go a long way, but it's still okay to cold email. That's fine. I feel like everyone needs to know the difference between BCC, CC, and to. So when you're sending an email, when you're indicating who this email is going to is just send it to them. You can put multiple people on that, it's fine. CC is carbon copy. It's from the days in which, in order to have multiple copies of a form, you actually had this paper that went underneath the paper you were filling out long ago. Carbon copy is a way of signaling in email etiquette that, hey, I want you to see this email just so you're aware of it, but I don't need you to take any action on it. It's, I want you to know about it, but I'm really talking to this other person. I just want you to be aware. Blind carbon copy is, I want you to be aware, but I don't want the person I'm talking to know that you're aware, or I just don't want them to have your email address. It's when you send something to BCC to somebody, like a bunch of people, the only person who can see everyone you sent it to is you. Not everyone else can. That's where blind carbon copy goes. That is great for even things like email lists where you're trying to, update everyone that a meeting time has changed and you don't want them all emailing each other. It makes it so when they reply, it only goes back to you and the select few groups of people you want it on there. It can be used in that way too. It's not always nefarious. Summarize. Don't saddle your leader or your reader with extra work. If there's a lot of information, take time, summarize it. Review, grammar, clarity. Is my ask clear? What actions need to be taken and by who? Be very explicit about all of these things. Here are my questions. Here are the actions I need from you. Here's what I'm expecting from you. Here's what I'm willing to do. Keep things very concise, very clear. Tips and tricks. Unsubscribe is your friend. Every time you join a new service online using your email, please hit unsubscribe if you really don't care about that, because it will keep your email inbox cleaner. Life is good. Mark read, report spam. If there's you got an email and you want to keep it, but you don't really care about it, mark it as read, so you don't have to deal with it right now. Report spam if it's legitimate spam. That will help train the AI email filters to help avoid things like that. If you're using Gmail and some other email services use this too, you can add a plus sign to the email address, and then anything after that will go to whatever is before the plus sign. So an example, back here, I was sending to Nile plus test@hackerlab.org. The plus test will be ignored by Gmail and it will just go straight to niall@hackerlab.org. However, when you get it, you'll see that that plus was there. It's a great way to keep emails separate from each other and help you filter out what's going where. Not every email provider does that, but Gmail definitely does. Signature should be short and sweet. It's who are you, why are you, how to contact you, what works best. And multiple email addresses can be your friend. Have a personal one that you use for your personal stuff. Have a business one that you use for your business stuff. That way you can have your professional name email address and you can have your super cool gamer at hotmail.com address. You can keep them separate. Life will be good. Chat and SMS. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to kind of burn through these a little bit faster. Sorry, I mistimed horribly. Advantages. Chat and SMS can be both asynchronous and synchronous, right? Depending on who you're talking to, they can be either something you're expecting them to answer to right away or something you would like them to get to later. It's great for quick triage. By triage, I mean, I want to look at something real quick, figure out whether it's something I have to deal with right away, and then move on. If you want to give somebody the option to do that, like, hey, if you're free, I have this problem. It's a wonderful avenue for that. Great for quick thoughts or quick questions. What time was that meeting tomorrow? It was at 3:30. Brilliant. Thank you. Fast, quick, to the point. Life moves on. Disadvantages. Expectation of availability can be high. You have a tendency to assume that people are already always sitting by their chat platform ready to reply to you. That's not cool. People have lives. Let them have lives. Does not often provide a room for context. It can be very concise and the context is expected to already exist. You will lose some of that. While it's searchable, it's difficult to search. I think of text as just throwing everything in a pile and maybe I'll sort through them later. Maybe I won't. Who knows? It's easy to miss items because it's very linear. I'm not typically scrolling back too far to figure out what happened. If anybody's been on a group chat, a group SMS, you probably know what I'm talking about. If I step away for a while and come back, I'm not going back and looking at 2 days worth of messages. It's gone. It's in the pile. Chat versus SMS. I kind of group them together, but it's important to know that they're different. Chat is things like Slack, Google Chat, Microsoft Teams, etc. Easy to have them very scoped to work in the professional sphere. They provide a lot of the same functionality as SMS, but they are easy to keep separate from your personal life. SMS, often on people's personal devices, creates the feeling of being on call. That's something that is really annoying for me. I set up a Google Voice number that is my work number, that anybody who has that number knows that that's my work number. And if I get a text message through there, I know it's a work thing. Keeps my life separate. It's mostly smartphone only, right? In some, if you can use services, if you're in the Apple sphere or you're in the Google Voice sphere, you can type them out on a computer, but a lot of people are restricted to just their phones. Both typically are a bad first impression for professional communications. I'll just flat out say it. They lack a lot of context and it's just kind of like, hey, hi, cool. This is one of my favorite websites to send to people who I want to be passive aggressive about their communication. It's called nohello.net. It's kind of like, let me Google that for you. It says, don't do this. Hi, question mark. What time was that meeting again? Oh, 3:30, mate. Cool. Versus, hiya, what time was that meeting? Hey, 3:30. Cool. See that? 2 messages got to the point. Everything else was superfluous. It's okay to have, friendly hellos and that kind of stuff, but get to the point quickly. Don't just say hi and wait for me to reply. If I see hi, I'm just going to I'm going to leave you on red. That's what I'm going to do. Video meetings, as we're doing right now, synchronous, allow for flowing discussion, good for many voices, can be a great stand-in for in-person if used correctly. Important points, it requires buy-in from the attendees. If this was a meeting where it wasn't, this is more of a presentation where it's me presenting to everyone here, but if this was more of a discussion, sorry that I'm just talking at everyone, but if this was a little bit more of a discussion, having everybody's face and being able to read facial expressions would go a long way. That involves buy-in from all of the people involved in the meeting. If we don't have that, we're not going to get to the level that we would if we were in person. Etiquette. We all know this. Mute when you're not talking, use chat, eliminate background noises. I mean, it's cool. We all have dogs, but if the dog's barking in the background, you can drill into your brain a little bit. It's annoying. And agendas, having an agenda goes a long way. Have a map of what it is that you want to do. Social media, I'm going to just kind of touch on this because our next speaker, I'm sure, will be going a lot more into this. Sorry, I didn't mean to. I actually don't know Chloe's presentation, so I don't really know. Yeah, sorry. Advantages. Social media can be an informal avenue for cold communications, especially in the modern age where a lot of businesses have a very strong Instagram or Facebook presence. If you want to take a non-traditional route into getting to know a business or maybe applying for a job, it can be an avenue, but you need to be careful because you drag the entirety of your social media baggage along with you when you go into that. If you use your social media for stuff in your personal life that you don't want the professional folks to see, you've just crossed that bridge and it's hard to undo that, unring that bridge. Disadvantages often couples your private life and your work life, except for things like LinkedIn. It's advantageous to have both a private and public account for a lot of services. Have something that this is my professional profile and this other thing is my private profile. That said, I'm going to cut it there. I think we're at the end. Thank you all for listening so patiently. And I really, 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 really hope you got something out of it. This is the first time I've given this specific talk. It was kind of just as out of a need for what I've seen. It was observations on switching to online stuff over the pandemic. And this is what my observations are. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Niall. That was very informative. Okay, we are going to take a quick few-minute break. Please don't log out. But if you want to get up and stretch, go use the restroom, and then come on back. Chloe will get started, we'll say 5 minutes, maybe a little early. 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, so we will see you all back here in just a few minutes. Don't go too far. Also, if you're hanging around during these few minutes and you have any questions for me just about the workshop series in general, or if you are needing some of the materials or tools, if you weren't able to pick them up or you're still waiting for them, you can let me know. You can also email me. I will put that in the chat. And then Niall can also reply to messages if you have any questions for him. Okay, so we'll give it one more minute, 4:08, and then Chloe can get started. So I know most of you don't have your cameras on, so I'm just going to assume that you're coming on back. You definitely don't want to miss this part. And we will definitely wrap up by 5. And please wait if you can for the survey link. I will put in the chat. I'll put it in the chat now and then again at the end. And then Chloe, whenever you are ready. This is Chloe. She is a librarian for Sacramento Public Library, and she is going to be sharing some really great information with you today about data privacy. And Chloe, if you want to share a little bit more about yourself, go ahead.
Okay, so hello everyone. Thanks for being here, and thanks to Niall for that presentation. So yeah, my name is Chloe. I'm a librarian for Sacramento Public Library. I work in the North Highlands Antelope area, and I've worked at a couple of other of our branches throughout Sacramento. And I'm also a part of a national group of librarians called Library Freedom Project, which is entirely focused on privacy for people of all ages. But in my work personally, I work a lot with teens. I'll work with everybody. I'll help anybody who comes in, but I get the privilege to work with a lot of teens and a lot of young people. And so that's why my interest in privacy extends to you guys, because I think that something that I see is that a lot of like tech literacy conversations and that kind of stuff is not always putting you guys in the driver's seat or like taking the expertise in mind that young people have. And so what I want this conversation to be is like I have some interactive questions for you guys, because I would like to hear what you guys have to say while we talk about privacy. So I am going to share my screen real quick. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Let me get my own screen arranged now so I can see both the chat. Oh, my buttons disappeared too. There it is. Okay, I found them. Okay, so what we have for you today, or what I have for you today, is a conversation about data privacy and sort of digital wellness. What today is and is not about, what this talk is about. It's not about reinforcing some kind of misconceptions about online privacy or wellness. So I'm not here to convince you to unplug as the only way to be safe and secure and autonomous online. And I'm not here to shame or scare you out of your online habits or the big bad internet, because I think that that is just unhelpful and ridiculous. And there's lots of ways to be safe online and to protect your own autonomy and privacy without having to unplug. So instead, what I'm interested in is having a conversation with you all about tangible, actionable things that you can do to take back some of your own digital agency. And before we get into that conversation, I want to talk about what digital agency is and sort of what that looks like and what your relationship already is with the technology in your life, with your phones, your social media, various other, platforms or devices that you use, other technologies that you use. And at the end, we are going to get into some of the maybe more technical or like literal tools and steps that you can take with your apps and other things. You all got a resource emailed to you, or maybe you picked it up at your local branch, or maybe you will pick it up at your local library branch, which it's called the Data Detox for Youth, it's a toolkit that was put together by not me and not by the Sacramento Public Library, but they are generously letting us present it. An organization called Tactical Tech, and the Data Detox for Youth kit was put together by an advisory board of young people to sort of walk you through various ways that you can take control of your digital life, take control of your data and your information. So it's designed for youth, by youth, and hopefully you all have your either physical or digital hands on that at this point. So we'll get to that at the end, and we'll do some sort of contextual stuff before we get to it. I am going to put a link in the chat. This is to the Jamboard that I'm sharing my screen. So the next page of this Jamboard has a couple of questions on it. So I would love to hear from anybody, and you can put your answer in the chat or add it to the Jamboard with this like sticky note tool. You can add your own answers with a sticky note. But I would love to hear how would you describe your relationship with your phone or any other technology that you use a lot? You can put it in chat. Feel free to also unmute if you feel called to do so. Does anybody ever get told that they use their phone too much, that they're on their phone too much? Red flags and toxicity. Unhealthy. Is that red flags about your phone? Your phone is a red flag. Your phone is toxic. Just giving folks time to think about it. And if you don't want to add to it, the Jamboard is totally anonymous. Distraction. Relationships okay, could probably be better. Okay, I'm glad to see a healthy. I'm glad to see a healthy on the board. Like a bad relationship from a soap opera. Oh no. Oh no. And what is it about that relationship that feels so unhealthy? Like what does that look like? What does that feel like? I see somebody saying it's an extension of your hand because it's glued to it, by the way. You know, personally, my phone is rarely out of reach. Distraction, yeah. It's mostly a tool and a way to communicate, but at times distracting and time wasting. Yeah, that time wasting is an interesting feeling because you feel like you can't put it down, but then you're like, what am I doing? But I can't not do it. It's addictive, on it too much and it's distracting. Is this coming from, I'm curious if you're being told that you're on your phone too much, or like, is it coming from you? Can be on it too much or too little. I know my boundaries. Thank you for whoever said boundaries. I think that's a really important piece to our relationship with our phones. It's good to have boundaries in any kind of relationship. Being too accessible to my phone for the ways I can connect to people personally and professionally, and relying on it for information. It ties back to Niall's point about always being on call, always being reachable. That's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure to feel like you are always reachable and that you always have to respond. Feel like on it all the time, be doing something better with my time. Totally. I think that's something that a lot of people feel like. An 80% healthy relationship with my phone. I have been told I'm on it too much. And it can change, right? Like sometimes I have weeks where I'm on, or days where I'm on my phone constantly. And other times when I just want to throw it across the room, and then I actually do. Or maybe it dies and then I can't use it, and then it's like on accident, but that was a pretty healthy moment. See, on the Jamboard, it leads to procrastination most of the time, but other times it helps me maintain healthy relationships with people. Yeah, totally. Our phones, especially right now, like I am using my phone constantly to be in touch with people who either live far away, so I couldn't have seen them either in any case, but otherwise people who are outside of my bubble, or for whatever reason, we can't be face to face. I feel like my phone is where all of my friends are. Yeah, it's the pandemic and everything's online. It's a double-edged sword. So true. So true. Well, today, and keep these reactions coming, because they're really, I think, really important. And I'm hearing a lot of echoes, because like we all have this really complicated relationship with our phone where the boundary feels sort of tense and stressful, and it feels like it's addictive and you can't put it down. So I feel like we all kind of have this complicated relationship, whether it's healthy or unhealthy, moment to moment. We all have this really complicated relationship. And the thing that I'm going to have us focus on today, which is a part of the toolkit that you all received or will receive on digital wellness, is we're going to talk about the ways that our phones are sort of designed to make us have those feelings, designed to make us feel like we can't put it down and like it's sucking up our time. So there's like very real things that our phones are designed to do and look like, ways that they function, that are designed to make us feel that way. So we're going to dig into some of these feelings and what cause them, and maybe how we can build up those boundaries a little bit better. Yeah, I see a useful on the Jamboard. That's super true. Yeah, Felicia, thank you. It helps me maintain contact with people I'm friends with that I've met through playing video games, and it helps me with my job when I use social media. Yeah, social media is everywhere. It's personal and professional. And that is where all those boundaries come in and can get really messy. So this, the toolkit that you all got is called the Data Detox. I'm curious if you haven't flipped through it, or if you have, either way, what comes to mind when you hear like data detox? What does that envision for you? What does that evoke for you? And is it something you've ever done or wanted to do or heard of before? And I know that I started this with like, you don't have to unplug. I'm not telling you to unplug. So what comes to mind? Not using technology as much. Yeah, reducing technology usage. The detox drinks. Yeah, we're going to detox those digital toxins from our mind, from our lives. Take a break. I'm really tickled by that detox drinks idea. Yeah, so, okay, I'm going to go to the next slide on our Jamboard, but feel free to keep adding to that slide. It still exists. So everything from the data detox, all of this comes down to privacy, and thinking about privacy as kind of a way to protect your, not only your data and your information, which can have a lot of like social as well as economic and all kinds of reasons to protect your privacy. And where I want to start with that is honestly a little bit of privacy as self-care, sort of privacy as a way to protect your digital wellness and your agency online. So I'm curious for your thoughts on the Jamboard or in the chat about what does privacy mean to you? And then is digital privacy any different? Like what comes to mind when you think of privacy? It's like a closed bedroom door, like somebody not reading your texts, somebody not reading a journal or something like that. What does privacy mean to you? maybe are there things that you, and if you don't want to add anything, because this is a slide on privacy, so you don't necessarily have to put your stuff out there. But thinking about like, what are the things that you do to protect your privacy? And that's online or not online, in IRL or online. Privacy means to keep something to yourself because you don't want to share it publicly to other people. For example, closing your door or your diary. Yeah. And not having my data accessible to too many companies or the government. Totally. Privacy means I always feel like my personal information is secure from other people or companies. I'm in control of what the world does or does not know about me. Yes. Look at your own stuff. It means very personal information like address, photos of friends and family, banking info, your personal life in general. Yes, totally. I think sometimes like it's a lot easier, feels simpler in a way to think about privacy in your day-to-day physical existence, like your life, things that you keep private in face-to-face conversations with people, or things that you keep private in your own, like in your own stuff, in your locker, in your room at home, whatever things you keep private from siblings or friends or family. And digital privacy is like its own thing, even though it's very related. Privacy means to keep others from seeing your activity on technology and personal information. One of the, a project that Library Freedom did was a series of zines called the Finsta Project, named after Finstas, the private Instagrams that only your friends have access to, your secret Instagram. Let's see, I've got more people have access to your digital info. It may be sent into an algorithm to a bot to sell stuff to you. That's the difference between physical and digital privacy. All right, someone's on my wavelength. Thank you for that. Awesome. Okay. Well, cool. So that last little jam there perfectly segues me into my next slide. Again, continue to add to whatever page of the Jamboard you would like to. It's all still there. But my next thing, so has this ever happened to anybody when an ad pops up for something you were just talking about? This meme came out of the Library Freedom Project Teen Memes Project about a year ago. So this was made by a teen. So something that I wanted to, let's see. Think about how I want to keep going. Oh, yes, that has happened to me before. So this happens to me all the time. I think it happens to everybody. And what does this feel like when this happens? It's me all the time. It is freaky. It's very weird. Like, it's reading your brain. Somehow it knows you better than you know yourself. It's very unsettling. Yeah, I use it on purpose for fashion, but I don't really like it. I also do that sometimes. Like I'm really in the market for this one thing. So, okay, Instagram, show me what you got. Perfect target for those IG ads. Yeah, it feels like your devices are spying on you and it's freaky. And there's a lot that goes into how this happens and where it comes from and how these devices like are spying on you in a way that's like not exactly like they're hacking you, but there's this entire network of entities that are out for your data. So I'm going to switch my screen over to this one, which this is a meme that I'm sure you've seen before, and I didn't have time to properly memify it with my own text, but we're going to pretend that one of these Spider-Men is you, your actual person, your actual self, your actual interests and the people that you know and you love, and your actual thoughts and your beliefs and curiosities and insecurities. One of these Spider-Men is you. Another of these Spider-Men is the you that Instagram thinks you are, based on who you follow on Instagram, who follows you, who you message, what posts you like. That's the you that Instagram has created from their data set on you. And that's the you that they are going to use to show you ads, to show you the next thing on your For You page, to show you the next reel as you're swiping through. That's the you that they have created for you and that they are curating content for. And then the next Spider-Man is the you that Google has of you. So that's the person that knows your Google search history. That's the person, or that's the self, the version of you that Google has for you. And then all the other Spider-Men are the other personas, that other, like the TikTok you, the you that TikTok has created, and that is going to show you different things in your feed. It's going to push you in different directions into the niche worlds of TikTok. So there are all of these different digital entities that are created, but only one of these Spider-Men is you, is your actual self, and all of these others sort of begin to take a life of their own. And what complicates that is that our data is a really valuable resource for companies. Like lots of people put that on the Jamboard and in the chat about privacy, that you want to protect your information from companies and companies that know things about you. So all of the different like social medias, everything that we're doing online, whether that is social media, whether that is on a gaming platform, whether that is you're buying something from a website that you sign into with your Gmail, all of these things become connected, and all of these other Spider-Men that are not the real you sort of take on a life of their own and are used to funnel you in certain ways online. So your attention is being pulled in all of these different ways, largely for the reason to make these companies money. And of course, there's many complicating factors in that, and it's much more complicated than I even know, and that I could even get into, because I'm, no expert, but I'm just very interested in all this. So it's all funneling you to different areas. Have you been on YouTube ever and just let the autoplay go and gone to some content that makes you go, whoa? That is a very well-documented thing with YouTube, certainly well-documented thing with TikTok. And they're using all of these data doppelgangers of you to point you in those directions, to make you keep wanting more content, and sending you in all of these directions based on what they think that you're going to want, right? So now we're going to do the thing where we dig into the ways that our phones are designed to do all those things for us, to keep us plugged in and to keep us scrolling and going through and keeping us addicted and not being able to put our phones down. We're going to go to this one. So let me present it. Okay. So this next part is on something called persuasive design. So there's a bunch of different ways that our phones are designed. There's a whole field to this. The ways that our phones are designed and our platforms are designed to keep you plugged in and to keep you engaged, because the more that you are engaged, the more that those platforms get data on you. TikTok gathers data not only on what you like and who you follow, but how long you let a video play, or how many times you let a video play before you swipe. So every level of engagement is gathering some kind of data that is going into some kind of data profile that is being used to keep you sucked in. So there's a bunch of different genres of these different persuasive design tactics. And so as we go through, I would love to see in the chat, if you recognize one of these tricks, drop it in the chat. What platform does this? Where have you seen this happen? We all fall for this? We all fall for these because We're supposed to. The people who design these are very, very smart, and they know us. They know human nature pretty well. So the first thing, everything seems urgent on your phone. The push notification, it's the banner on your home screen to notify you of something new. The alert, that ring or quack or a loud vibration, something gets your attention, and then will maybe continue to nudge you until you open that thing, until you look and open that notification. There's a red flag, a number signaling there's something new to see. So you open, even without opening any ads. Duolingo. Duolingo is very aggressive. That's true. The red flag, even without, if you open up your home screen, even without opening any app, DoorDash, interesting. Yeah, YouTube, without opening any apps, you're going to see that little red number or a star or something that tells you that there's, if only you would open that app, there's something waiting for you there. Don't you want to open that? It really seems urgent. Canvas. Canvas is an interesting one because Canvas is school. And so it's urgent, maybe in a social way, but also maybe in a, you have responsibilities as a student way. Maybe you don't want to miss something. Canvas is an interesting one. Yeah, any messaging app does this. Twitter definitely does this. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Discord, Facebook, and Instagram. Yeah. And if I can make it go forward, we'll have another thing. Hold please. Okay. Okay, next up. It makes it easy to keep scrolling. So this design, there is no dead end on the internet. So the checkpoint milestones in games and apps, such as like a usage streak. I'm going to shout out Duolingo yet again. Thank you for that one. Get that urge to keep going. You want those stickers all in a row. Autoplay. Where do you see autoplay happening? Where you automatically deliver the next piece of content without you having to click, without you having to scroll. No, you know it. YouTube. YouTube loves the autoplay. Netflix loves the autoplay, although sometimes it'll check to make sure you're still there and you're like, yes, all right, don't judge me. Yeah, YouTube does the autoplay. Infinite scroll, that feed of content that just keeps on giving. And pull to refresh, where you like pull it down with your thumb. You know what else does that? The slot machine. Like those science experiments where like mice step on a thing and like treats fall down. That's us. That's we're scrolling. Yeah, TikTok and Instagram, about pull to refresh, Twitter. Like fetching and reshuffling the content. And then on Instagram, it's like mostly not even people that I actually follow. I'm pulling to refresh sponsored content. And then it builds anticipation. So you're waiting for an answer that's not coming. These design features show that someone's there, even if that may not be true. So the typing bubble is a rough one. It can be. All these ones can be really rough. The read receipt and the online indicator. Oh, I'm sure. If you've ever been left on red, you know, that anticipation. You've ever seen the typing bubble and then it goes away? And then the typing bubble. Discord uses all three. Yeah, some of these are heavy hitters. The online indicator. Can I go to the next slide now? Did you spell TikTok wrong? Is that wrong?
I think it was like TikTok, like two separate words.
Oh, I see.
I don't know. I'm not hip. I said hip. I shouldn't say that either. Stop talking now.
Yeah. TikTok does so many of these things. Okay. It plays with your emotions. So everybody wants to belong, and there are features that play with that basic desire, that basic need. So the follower count. Number is a representation of your online audience. If that follower count is something that you watch, you notice when it changes, you notice when it goes up or down. The like, also, like you notice, and that also, some of these cross over each other, right? So that the likes or the like retweets, something is shared, you also get a push notification for that. So you'll get a push notification every time somebody likes one of your posts or somebody comments on your TikTok or something like that. It's that quick indicator of something being engaged with. Maybe it's being approved, but maybe it's somebody is disagreeing with you. So it's playing with your emotions. There's a new trend, stickers, filters, rewards, generates a higher sign up rate and boosts popularity. So like if you can quickly get in on like a new filter that's happening on TikTok, or like a new trend or whatever, like a new sound, new filter, new dance or sort of format for it, or a comment where you're getting those push notifications that somebody is engaging with your content. And also it misleads you. So there are things on our apps, on our platforms that are designed to be distracting. Just like a lot of people said, their relationships with their phones, it feels like a distraction. So there's a lot of things that are on your phone that are designed to be that way, designed to distract you, to bewilder, to cover something up, something that's designed to sort of throw you off balance, so that you don't question it too much or you don't mess with it. So the privacy policy, has anyone in this room ever read a privacy policy? When you sign up for something and then there's a box that you have to click through in order to get to that thing. And then you kind of start to, my props. They're long, they're really long, and they're really technical. The box is about this big and you scroll for miles to get to the bottom of that privacy policy. Yes, they are long-winded and boring, but super creepy sometimes. That is so true. If you scroll and then just like stop somewhere random and read a bit, you're like, ooh, am I agreeing to this? But then you have to, in order to use the thing, in order to sign up for Instagram, you have to agree to their privacy policy. But they're so long that you don't always know what you're agreeing to. Accept all. So when you go to a website and then there might be something at the bottom that is saying like this website uses cookies, or you're agreeing to this data being collected on you as you're using this site. There's a button that's easy to see and easy to click that says like, sure, accept all. But then there's like a smaller button that's like a ... or like a little caret, a smaller button that you can click to see another menu where you can actually turn all those things off, but it's harder to find. And like, it's like, if you know, you know, but if you don't know that you can turn it off, you're just going to click accept all. Yeah, exactly. We do sell your data, but you're in control of unsubscribing, but we'll legally keep your data for life. Yeah, absolutely. They're quite creepy, but they don't want you to read them, so they keep them really long. Oh, interesting. I have not even heard of that app, but it's totally doing all the things. Yeah, being a big name photographer will notice my photos. Yeah, so confirmation sharing, whether it's a newsletter or an advertisement, this feature shames you to opt in. Like if you open up a website and there's a pop-up that's like, man, I came into this slide with an example, but it's like, don't you care about this thing? And you have to click yes, but then and the yes button is very visible and the no button is like hard to see. And maybe it says something like, no, I don't care about this thing, or like, I don't care about being smart, or I don't know. But it's like in a judgmental tone, but you have to click that in order to not like give this website your email address to get a 5% off coupon or something. And then all apps have a delete or opt out feature, but sometimes it's really hard to find. And sometimes you have to like dig through whatever settings or like your account information in order to find the things where you can delete or deactivate an app or a service. So those are all these different ways that it's really misleading. The phones are designed to mislead you, so you can't really question the things that they're doing. And then let's see, there's one more, I believe. Yes. Okay. So it helps you level up. So sometimes designs on our platforms or whatever else draw you in by presenting some like shiny, better version of what you already have. And you might be able to upgrade, but it might cost you something. And this is like maybe more common in gaming, but maybe you guys have examples that I don't even know about. So there's a loot box, a virtual item containing a hidden, randomized, possibly rare return. And then you can pay to open the box and see what's inside. You can purchase something in an app. So it's a free app, but you're able to, it allows users to purchase extra features or exclusive content. Or there's an upgrade. So it's like a phone or a game, but they're releasing new things and marketing new products that you might not need, but you would like to have, but it is going to cost you money. And maybe those ads are coming through a free device or something like that. Does that sound like anything? Yeah, Animal Crossing. Oh, thank you for that. That is a good one. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, an excellent example of these things. Perfect. Does this ring true for anybody else? Does anybody else have examples, real world, real digital world examples of any of these? No. Twitch. Twitch is a good one. Roblox. Yeah. Yeah, like gaming and streaming. Good examples for these. Nice. Any design app I have used, yeah, totally. Like most platforms are using some combination of any or all Switch games when it wants your location to trade in games. Yeah, totally. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna leave this screen. Okay. Yeah, location is an interesting thing to bring up, like when games or apps or platforms, etc., want your location data. Location data is a really good example of something that is super valuable, your location data. And it's something that a lot of our apps have access to location by default that don't really need to. So like what, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and then I'll just be big. Stop share, okay. So let's see, can anybody name a couple of apps that like, in order to use them to function, they actually need access to your location? Waze. Pokemon Go, that's a good one. Google Maps. Yeah. What's Uber? Yeah. What's an app that probably almost never needs access to your location? Tinder. Like would your shade, yes, that, thank you. Your shady third-party calculator app does not need access to your location. That's a prime example. That shady third-party calculator app was almost definitely free. and almost definitely when you installed it, by default, wanted access to your location. It probably wanted access to your contacts. It probably wanted access to maybe your phone and your microphone, or not your phone, your camera and your microphone, your photos. Yeah, that third-party app was free, but it is making some money because by default, it has access to all of these things, all of these pieces of data from you that you would have had to know about and go hunting for the option to turn those things off, to I was going to say unsubscribe, but to opt out of those things. You would have had to know that you should do that, and then have the time to go hunting through those things, and then to do that for everything that's on your phone, for everything that you have installed, everything that you're going to install. So yeah, location is a really good example. Thank you so much for that third-party calculator app example. That is perfect. And I'm gonna make a mental note for the next time I do this conversation. Okay, so the next, where I'm running up on our time here. So before I finish, I wanna point us back to the digital detox kit that came with this talk. And you either have, as I said, your physical fingers or your digital fingers on this toolkit. So this toolkit is really awesome. I really like it a lot. And it's going to go through some of the more tangible tool-based ways to protect your data. What I like to start with when we're starting to talk about privacy, I think maybe start with is not the right way to put it, because it sounds like you guys are all thinking about your privacy already, thinking about your data already. And I got to tell you, I love to see it. So I think that privacy really starts with like a mindset, which is why I like this conversation so much and why I like to start at this conversation, because tools and technologies change. Like if we have this conversation again a year from now, who knows if TikTok will be like the prime example that I'm trying to use. There may be some other technology, some other platform, some other data company or whatever that is the one to pick on. But having like this mindset where you know that privacy is important, you know that keeping your privacy is important to your agency and to minimizing the number of all of those Spider-Men around you that are being like bought and sold by these data companies and by these social media companies. And sorry, I read the chat and then I got distracted. Once you can have this mindset where privacy is kind of at the front of your mind, and when you get that notification from whatever third-party calculator app, or sometimes every once in a while, I want a compass, and so I install a compass app on my phone. And anytime you're doing something like that, if it asks for your location, you can maybe be like, I don't think you need my location. And then you'll know to turn that off. Or the next time that you're feeling like you want to throw your phone across the room because you've been on it forever and you just can't seem to put it down and you don't feel good. I think everybody knows that feeling where like you're on your phone and you just feel physically bad. It's like causing you anxiety. It's making you unhappy. It's hurting your eyes, maybe giving you a headache, and like you've been sitting a long time. And then you recognize that you're doing the pull to refresh. You notice that you're just doing that same motion and being rewarded over and over again in a way that is not actually rewarding and not actually fulfilling to you. Once you can sort of recognize these tools and tricks that are working against you, it becomes easier to resist them and to sort of call back your own attention and exercise your own agency in your own digital lives. The data detox kit, like I said, is a great kit. It's going to go through, like walk you through going through your apps and looking at the apps that have access to your location data and turning those off. It's going to walk you through how to create more secure passwords and different ways to store those passwords in ways that are going to be safe for your individual needs, for your preferences. And those technologies, like I said, those can change, but it's the mindset of keeping your privacy and your information safe that is not going to change. And if anything, can get stronger and better and more equipped over time. Because if there's one thing I want you all to take away from this conversation about privacy, is that you don't have to unplug, and it's not all or nothing. So privacy, digital privacy, you don't have to be a technical expert. I certainly am not. I could not use a VPN. I couldn't tell you how to do it. I couldn't even really explain what it is if that's not already a familiar term for you. But you don't have to be a technical expert. You don't have to do every single thing right, privacy-wise. If you get started by turning off the location share for those random apps on your phone, and then making maybe certain apps only have access to your location when they're in use. If you can go through your phones and turn off their access to your contact list, maybe disconnect some things from your Facebook or your Instagram or Twitter accounts, take away their permission to use your photo library, any little things, those little things are going to add up to creating less Spider-Mans around you of your digital doppelgangers, so that your actual self is a little bit more autonomous, a little bit more secure data-wise. And that is my last bit for you. That's what I've got.
Awesome.
I'm gonna put my
Thank
email in
you.
the chat if anyone has any questions or anything else. I am here for you.
Do it. Okay, any last questions? Going once. Thank you everyone for sticking with us. I am going to put that survey link in the chat one more time. I know for those of you who have been to multiple sessions, we do a lot of surveys, but it's so that we can, talk the state library into giving us money again in the future to offer programs like this. So please take it if you have a moment. And again, we do have 2 more topics over the next 2 weeks. We have a topic next week on mental health, and the last week, in 2 weeks, we have a session on personal organization and time management, which will be fun, I promise. Thank you. A big thanks to both Chloe and Niall. This was excellent information. And thank you everybody for attending. It was really great to see so many familiar names in attendance today. All right. And I will put my email in the chat one more time. And if you have any questions about the program in general or recordings, any of that stuff, you can always send me an email. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And we'll see you next time.